be able to gloat off of winning a national championship in today's age of social media where it's in your face more and all that kind of stuff. But lo and behold, Tennessee came out on top, and I don't know if the city of Knoxville is still standing right now, but there's a very good chance that it's not.
Well, I mean, I was watching it yesterday, and one thing that I saw was I don't think a one seed has won the national title since like 1999.
Yeah, so the first year they had seeding was 99, and Miami was that one seed that last won. So it's kind of been the curse of the one for the past 25 years, and people are kind of looking at Tennessee like, all right, I know you've had a great season, number one coming in, but history says you're probably not going to win. And when they lost in the way that they did on Saturday, 9-5 to A&M, it's like, oh boy, here we go again. And then they trailed for much of Sunday's game too as well into those 2 home runs in the late innings, but they kind of controlled it from the jump last night. A&M had a good comeback. They made it interesting right there at the very end. In fact, on the penultimate pitch, they stole home plate and made it 6-5 at that point in time. And then you think, oh boy, a home run ties this thing up. We got a whole new ball game, but Tennessee was able to hold on and again claim their first national championship as a program. And they're a program that has been perennially good, especially under Tony Vitello. Regular trips to College World Series, always a contender in the SEC. And this year they were finally able to put it all together. Not only being the number 1 overall team in the country, winning the SEC tournament, being the number 1 seed in Omaha, and now winning the whole thing. This is about as perfect as you could ask for.
It was, as somebody that's kind of new to watching, college baseball, watching that dominance was interesting, but it was also kind of new because, like you were kind of saying, I feel like we haven't really seen, not just dominance on a national scale, but, they swept the conference. They dominated SECs kind of throughout the year. So I think kind of going into this tournament, a lot of people, like you were saying, had their eyes on them in a sense that, okay, it's not, are they going to get over the hump? It's, can they get over that hump?
Sure. And again, it's one of those things where you think based on the law of averages, if you go to Omaha enough times, you're going to end up eventually winning a championship. Now, we've seen teams like Clemson. We've seen teams like Florida State, teams like that are perennially very good, but just because you get there doesn't mean that you're going to win the World Series. And, but Florida State's been there 24 times, still hasn't won the thing. But Tennessee was finally able to tick that box last night. And Peyton Manning was there, Josh Heupel was there, Morgan Wallen was there. It was a who's who of celebrities in the house rooting on Tennessee to watch them win.
And it was kind of interesting. You were talking about before. It kind of seemed like they were in control most of the game, but they almost kind of weren't. Like, A&M was kind of stuck around throughout the game, wasn't really down and out for most of it. Even when I think Tennessee jumped out to a 3-1 lead. What was it, pretty early on, or 4-1?
Yeah, they got up 3-1 in the bottom of the third, and it stayed status quo there until the 7th when they opened their lead up to 6-1 at that point in time. And having a 6-1 lead go into the final 2 innings, you feel that's pretty comfortable. Texas A&M is a team that's capable of scoring runs, and they were able to put together 2 runs in the 8th and 9th inning, respectively. So that kind of made you think, okay, here we go. Maybe we got something going on here. But then they were able to get the final strike out there and seal things up. And we knew both these programs, as good as they were on offense, it was really going to come down to pitching.
Oh, yeah.
And we saw great pitching performances throughout most of the weekend, with the exception of, I'd say a pitcher on each side, with A&M on Sunday and then Tennessee on Saturday, having rough innings there. But the Tennessee pitching staff as a whole did a very great job last night. Sanders Seacrest, obviously, their ace, goes out there, tosses 5 1/3 innings, gives up 6 hits, and just 1 run. And then the bullpen comes in, does fantastic work. Kirby Connell, I don't know if that's the first time that you got to see him, the dude with long hair and the curled mustache, who they affectionately call Volley Fingers, because of his likeness to Raleigh Fingers. He used to have the curled mustache back in the day, but he came in there and really locked things down in the eighth inning last night. Then Combs comes in the 9th inning and does give up those 2 runs, but able to do enough with his 3 strikeouts to seal the victory.
Yeah, his mustache was distracting me watching the game, so I'm thinking these guys batting have got to be distracted looking at this guy's insane handlebar mustache.
Yeah, it's an intimidation factor for sure, and when you couple in the mullet, the long hair, and all that kind of stuff. And dude, every time I've watched him pitch, no matter what point of the season it's been, he's just pouring sweat. Now, it was very hot last night in Omaha, so that's, was obviously everybody, but he's just drenched in sweat, got the long hair, got the mustache, and he wears, and I get it, you don't want to get sunburnt, but he wears the long sleeves underneath his uniform too. Like, dude had to have been just soaked.
Somebody needs to get him like a NIL deal with like Manscaped or something.
Yeah, maybe so. If nothing else, maybe like do they have the ShamWow still a thing? Those still around?
That or Head and Shoulders would be good too.
Maybe so. Yeah, it does look a little bit tangled and ratty a bit. So maybe something to kind of clean that out.
Oh, I was saying he's got the flow. I mean, when you got the flow, Head and Shoulders is kind of almost a bread and butter partnership.
That is very true. What Polamalu,
and
Mahomes, they do the Head and Shoulders commercial. Yeah, maybe we can get them in on that. We'll certainly see. One thing I did see last night, and again, this goes back to our conversation yesterday, where the Tennessee fan base is so unique, and they are I don't want to say a cult when it comes to social media, but the things they do sometimes are questionable, right? So you may not be familiar with this. They had a pitcher a season ago, or the past couple seasons, Chase Burns, very efficient pitcher for them, transferred to Wake Forest this past offseason. Wake Forest, another very good program, the one that nearly made it to the national championship game, a season ago, or national championship series a season ago. So Tennessee fans were not thrilled that Chase Burns decided to leave. I get that. But when you're celebrating a national championship, I don't understand why you take that moment to say, oh, F this guy, screw this guy for leaving us a year ago. Like, why is that relevant in this moment? Like, enjoy your championship. Don't think about the guy that went elsewhere, which, by the way, Chase Burns is about to be a top 5 pick in the MLB draft here very soon. He's doing fine. Like, would he have loved to win a national championship? Sure. But, I don't think he's laying in bed crying last night because he wasn't a part of that team. Like, I don't understand why you take that moment to try and trash talk this dude that's not on your team anymore.
Well, and if anything, he should be patting himself on the back. I mean, his success there is kind of a reason why, the program has, is looked at, respectfully. He was part of a winning tradition the year before, and even though he's not part of that, tradition when they finally get over the hump and they get the natty, I mean, he kind of helped get the program's rep there in the first place.
Well, and look, he made a decision that was the best for him. He thought going to Wake Forest, another great program, was going to do him a lot of good. And again, he's going to go be a top 5 pick here very, very soon. So again, he's doing fine. But then again, I think that kind of illustrates why people are so put off by the Tennessee fan base. And look, not every Tennessee fan's a bad person. Our guy Elijah Campbell is a Tennessee fan, and I'm sure he's over the moon today, with celebrating the championship. But just kind of like those kind of weird things, like why are you diverting your attention from this moment to focus on something that is not relevant in the slightest right now? Like you won your first championship. I mean, the women's team won the national championship in the mid-2000s. So in over 15 years, a major national championship, enjoy it. Like, go have a parade. Go, again, if you want to burn down the city of Knoxville, go do that. But, like, don't focus on somebody that's irrelevant to what's going on right now.
I think they'd be more productive burning the city of Knoxville down, celebrating than focusing on, maybe somebody that wasn't part of the championship team that could have been.
Maybe so. I mentioned, so it was 104 degrees, I believe, at field level last night. I think the official temperature was like 98, but, when you get down there, it feels a little bit hotter. Mm-hmm. It got me thinking, what's the hottest sporting event you think you've ever attended? Any stick out to you?
Yeah, I remember, like, as a kid, I definitely went to a couple Shea Stadium games, and, I mean, it was only hotter. The games like in Queens were only very hot just because you get the heat from all the cars in the parking lot. And It just kind of, I mean, it really just radiates off of, it adds to the already hot weather.
Yeah.
So it's just like another 10, 15 degrees smacking you in the face kind of.
And like obviously we deal with 100 degrees and ton of humidity down here. Like, what is summer in New York? Like, what's the high temperature?
I would say it's like really, really hot days. I would say it's probably like low 90s, but it doesn't get as dry and humid as it does, I mean, so far down here, but it's only early June. So
I mean, we're just gonna be 100 degrees tomorrow, so we're notching up to the extreme level of summer very, very quickly. I think probably the hottest thing that I ever attended would have been Georgia game 10 years ago. They're playing Troy. It was in September. It was a noon kick, and it was like the third game of the season, so still early on in September. And is Sanford Stadium. They have their west end zone. It just sits right in the sun. Like the sun doesn't go behind the scoreboard until 3:30, 4 o'clock, depending on, September or October. And so I'm just sitting right there roasting in the sun the entire time. It had to have been at least 90 degrees. But when you have no cloud cover and you're just sitting out there all day long, it just feels, and being down at field level probably made it feel hotter too. But I just remember roasting out in the sun all day. That was probably the hottest one for me.
So my question for you is, like, in those kind of situations, like, how do they keep, like, how do you guys all stay hydrated?
I just dump water on myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I will go buy 3-4 bottles of water. I'll drink one, and then I'm just pouring one down my neck or whatever. I always heard the trick of your wrists. If you can keep your wrist cool, something about, I guess because your veins are right there, it kind of keeps your whole body cool. So I'm putting ice or water on my wrist, and I don't know if that works or not, but it does enough. But I'm definitely the dump water on myself, or if I have those the cooling towels that you can dunk in water or ice water or whatever, and then wrap around your head that are supposed to stay cool for a while. I've had some of those in the past that kind of does the trick, but inevitably the heat usually ends up winning. And I feel for everybody that was in Omaha last night. At least when the sun went down, made it a little bit better. But for that first hour-ish of the game, I mean, they were just in the brutal dead heat of the sun.
People definitely got some color, and you definitely had a few fans walking out of that stadium looking like a lobster.
But yeah. I can't imagine the rate of sunburn and the amount of aloe that people are probably buying in Omaha today as they head back to wherever they came from. As I mentioned as well, last night was the end of the Stanley Cup Finals, and one team sure did avoid a very embarrassing collapse. We'll dive into that coming up in just a few minutes. Reminder, coming up on Thursday, myself, Wes, and Chris are going to have the Gamecock Central takeover at Firehouse Subs in KC, 542 Knox Abbott Drive. Come by and see us again on Thursday from 9 until 12. Stanley Cup Finals, Florida Panthers, your champions, coming up next. Here in the Extra Point, Tyler Head, Sam Shapiro from WIS here on The Game. Welcome back in. Extra Point. Tyler Head, Sam Shapiro from WIS hanging out with you on this Tuesday. Appreciate everybody tuning in on the 107.5 Game app, which you can listen to us anywhere you are, as well as on the Game TV, powered by Integrated Media and sponsored by our friends over at Shepherd's Glass. We'll get to the Stanley Cup Finals in just a minute, but Dave, I want to bring you in here because I think you shared a story with us in the break there that I think perfectly encapsulates what I was talking about a moment ago with the Tennessee fan base and this vendetta against Chase Burns.
So I go to this wedding, my ex-wife's friends, sisters, cousins or something.
Okay,
and
sure.
And we're there, so I don't really know these people.
Yeah.
But after the wedding, beautiful wedding, everything was great. But afterwards, that little part where people give a toast and everything.
Yeah.
The bride stands up, and she starts talking about her ex and how he's a loser. And look at me, how great I am. I lost weight and I'm beautiful. And he has got to be so jealous now.
She told him.
Yeah. But everybody in there is like, okay.
I'm assuming this ex was not at the wedding.
I don't believe so.
So she's saying this so somebody will tell the ex, hey, did you hear what she said about you at her wedding?
Yeah. And it was so weird. I felt sorry for the groom. But her friends kind of
yeah, it's
like supported her a little bit. I think they were shocked too.
It's like I thought we were focusing on the present, that we're happy that you're married to this guy that is the right one, right? And the future's going to be great.
Yeah.
Why are you still hung up on what's behind you?
Yeah, I don't think that wedding's going to last long. Just a little.
Did they last? Do you know?
I don't really know.
Was the cake good?
The cake was good. Oh, it was a great reception.
Okay, well, there's that at least.
Yeah.
But, I wouldn't recommend dogging your ex at your wedding, especially during the toast.
No.
It's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, no. I mean, it definitely helped if the cake was good. It probably took away from that a little bit, but, I mean.
Yeah, and they had bottled Michelob Ultra, so that was pretty cool.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know it was that fancy, but all right.
I don't even know they make them in a bottle.
All right, let's hear what happened last night at the end of the Stanley Cup Finals.
The wall, which would be fitting. 3 seconds to go. The Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup.
And that was called last night on ESPN as, yes, the Florida Panthers in front of their home crowd did indeed hang on to win the Stanley Cup in game number 7 and avoid what might have been the worst blown lead in sports history if Edmonton ended up winning the final 4 straight games of the Stanley Cup Finals, because it was looking pretty bleak there for a minute.
I thought it was funny. I heard earlier I think when Florida was up 3-0 or it was 3-1, I heard somebody say, it was, they were just like, they're not worried. We're just going to figure out how to pull out one more win. And it's like, you give up 1, you give up 2. I guess at what point do you kind of sit back and go, okay, now we need to start worrying?
Well, it's kind of funny because in a way, this series, at least from the beginning, paralleled what was happening with the NBA Finals. Where it's like, all right, you get out to a 3-0 lead. All right, you're gonna go on the road. You're gonna go to their venue. You drop 1. Okay, sure. Sweeping is very hard. No big deal. You're gonna probably end up winning game number 5, right? Well, that didn't happen. And they didn't end up winning game number 6. So the momentum is completely shifted into Edmonton's favor at that point in time. It's like, oh crap, I know you're in your home venue, but you haven't won a game in 3 games. And with the way that's spaced out in over a week at that point in time, I was legitimately worried that the Oilers were actually going to go in there. Not that I was worried I didn't have a rooting interest, but I really thought the Oilers were going to be able to come out on top last night to where we would use this Florida Panthers team as like, man, that might be the worst collapse we've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Edmonton was going to kind of steamroll into that game and was going to take it just because they kind of had the momentum in their favor. But, looking at that, and I know you were kind of alluding to that Boston-Miami series from last season, it's interesting that it's both Florida teams that were up 3-0 and almost blew the most historic lead in their respective sport.
Right. So now that the Panthers have won and again avoided that that collapse. I guess, is 28-3 still the worst collapse? Are we still putting that at the top, or is the Warriors 3-1?
Ooh.
It's kind of the debate, right?
Yeah, I mean, 3-1 in terms of a series is probably the worst blown lead, just because that, one, that's for a title, and that's over a series of games. And, I feel like there are a lot of factors, especially in that Golden State-Cleveland series. Draymond Green doesn't sit out, what was it, game 5, or it was game 5.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland came back. They steamrolled Golden State, and then it was 3-2. That was kind of all the momentum, really, Cleveland needed, I guess, to come back. But I remember watching 28-3 with my best friend at his house. And as we've talked, I'm a longtime Morning Jets fan. My childhood hero is Chad Pennington. So I have to watch the Patriots come back and win. For me, was one of the most painful things I've had to experience as a Jets fan in my life.
You're talking to a Falcons fan. It's a little bit worse on my end.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys had the Lombardi Trophy literally in sights.
No kidding.
And I remember reading articles of the Falcons owner having to leave the game before it ended because he was just having so many heart issues between, the back and forth. And
I've shared this before, but I was watching that game in my apartment with my dad and my friend, my best friend back in college, and Falcons were up 28-3. The Patriots got their first touchdown right at the end of the third quarter. Went for 2, didn't get it, so it was 28-9 at that point in time. Still had a good 3-score lead, and I remember as they were coming back from the commercial break to start the fourth quarter, I just got this sinking feeling in my chest that something was about to go horribly wrong, and just little by little, one score here, Falcons punt, another score, Falcons punt, another score. Falcons, Matt Ryan gets sacked out of field goal range, and lo and behold, guess what? Here come the Patriots down the field to tie it. They get the coin flip in overtime, and it's that's it, it's over.
When they got the coin flip, I went, they're really going to win this game.
They are.
They're really, I couldn't believe it. I honestly couldn't believe it because they also weren't using Devonta Freeman, who was arguably a top 5 back in the NFL that year, and they kept just trying to throw the ball.
You're preaching to the choir here. In fact, Patrick DeMarco, fullback for the Falcons, he comes in here during football season, and we actually talked to him leading up to this year's Super Bowl, and I'd like tell us what happened. And he said that yes, everybody on the team was confused why they were not running the ball as more than they should have in those late stages of the game, because they were kind of aiding the Patriots with giving them more clock to work with, and lo and behold, you saw what happened, and Patriots walked away with the Super Bowl 51 victory, and the Falcons are, they are where they are now, because that was their window of opportunity. I also want to point out, with the Panthers winning last night, that also means it's now been 32 years since a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup Finals, the Montreal Canadiens, back in 1993. Hockey is, the 4th option for people when it comes to major sports in America, but America still, and I get it, there's only a handful of teams in Canada, but still, it's Canada's national pastime, and it's just ironic that a Canadian team still hasn't won in that long.
Let alone lose to a team in the South where it's 80 degrees almost year-round. What are the Florida fans going to do? They're going to go ice skating to celebrate the win?
I've always found it funny how long hockey season lasts into literally the hottest months of the year, where it's the one sport that is literally about playing on ice, being cold. And it's when you walked out of the venue last night, it was probably still 87 degrees outside, even though the sun was down. So, I don't know how they celebrate down there. I'm sure there was a lot of people in Florida that didn't know they had a hockey team until maybe about 2 weeks ago. But regardless, congratulations to them. First one in the franchise's history. And now, hockey and basketball have such short off seasons. We're going to be back in to their regular season in just a couple months' time. It goes by pretty quick.
Oh, I love it. And free agency is coming up, and it's always an interesting summer, especially in the NBA.
Speaking of basketball, coming up next, it's our TEC Equipment Rentals heavy lifting segment. A future Gamecock earning quite a bit of accolades. We'll dive into that coming up. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Sam Shapiro from WIS, along with you on your Tuesday here on The Game. Welcome back in. Extra Point. Saturday, Sam Shapiro from WIS hanging out here on your Tuesday. It is time for our heavy lifting segment brought to you by our friends over at TEC Equipment Rental. And as I mentioned, we'll keep on the conversation of basketball. Joyce Edwards has done quite a bit of heavy lifting already in her basketball career before ever officially taking the court for South Carolina like she'll do when basketball season rolls around in the fall of 2024. But she earned yet another accolade to her already long list yesterday when she was named the MVP of the FIBA U18 AmeriCup Championship, where she went out and averaged 14.2 points, 7.2 rebounds, while shooting 54.5% from the field over the course of the tournament. And Sam, you're very familiar with Joyce Edwards, one of the, if not the most decorated student athletes to ever come through South Carolina's women's basketball program. And she's being, compared to the likes of Asia Wilson already, again, before ever officially playing a game here. High hopes for her. Obviously, one of the best basketball players we've ever seen up to this point, through the high school ranks. And, man, we cannot wait to see what she's going to do on the court for Dawn Staley in year one.
Yeah, I mean, her and Fawiley are going to be so exciting to watch this fall. And I know I was kind of telling you I had the pleasure to kind of talk with her about, her high school career about a month or two ago. But, as she's going to play with Fawiley and, she just got Gatorade National Player of the Year, was at the McDonald's tournament, won, All-American MVP, and then, seeing how she performed at this tournament, winning the MVP as well. I mean, she's just got a laundry list of accolades, and it's just like, where does it stop?
Yeah, and again, this is just in line with what Dawn Staley's been doing for such a long time here, where you bring in literally the best of the best talent every single year, and it's just kind of reloading, really. I mean, really, Camila Cardoso is the only true main person that you lost off of this year's team, to the WNBA draft. And, man, you look to next year, you got, Chloe Kitts, Ashton Watkins, Malaysia Fulwiley, Raven Johnson. You just got a who's who of girls coming back for yet another season. And now you insert into, again, the best high school basketball player in the country for this cycle, and one of the best we've seen in recent memory. That's just only going to make what is already a great team even greater.
I'm so excited. I can't even put into words to you right now how excited I am. I mean, it's like when you have all that talent and it's not going anywhere, and then you're bringing in arguably one of the best two-way forwards from this high school class in the country, and they're right here and they want to stay home and then pair up with all that talent that's not going anywhere. I mean, it's kid in a candy store vibes for me. I don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of us have, obviously in the highlight tape, heard her interviews and stuff like that from getting to cover her on a closer level. Like, what is your takeaway from getting to know Joyce Edwards a little bit more?
She's very confident in herself, but she's not like, look at me, like, and she very much could be that way. I mean, she's
absolutely
top 5 player in the country, for high school girls basketball. Aside from the 31 and 13, she averaged in high school, I think only losing like 2 games this past regular season, 2-time state champion. I mean,
played for her sophomore year.
But I mean, like, she was kind of telling me, adversity she kind of go through, the year she didn't make the Olympic roster. I think her sophomore season, she kind of had to work through an injury. So, I mean, there were a lot of times she said, I could have just stopped. I could have just given up. Like, I played at such a high level, and I'm well respected, in this area. I don't need to, keep going. But I mean, she carries herself with a lot of confidence and a lot of rapport, and she's just a very humble athlete.
And, it's obviously exciting when you get a player of her caliber on your roster. But I think about, like you said, being on all these teams, winning all these awards. She's faced pressure her entire career.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
And especially these past handful of years at the high school level, when you're being touted as one of the, if not the best in the country, there's a lot of eyes on you. And the way that she's been able to step up and perform despite that pressure, I think bodes well for her when she gets here, because you're now going into the best program in the country, the dynasty of women's college basketball going on right now. And the spotlight's going to be brighter than it's ever been on you. Now, yes, you're obviously going to be surrounded by a lot of experienced, talented veteran teammate. So it's not going to be, okay, well, Joyce Edwards got to come in here and put this entire team on her back. Eventually, she will probably in time become that featured superstar of this team. Shouldn't have to be that right out of the gate, but we expect, based on what we know about her, now she can slot in. She should be a contributor right out of the gate. But again, I like the fact that she's no stranger to pressure, no stranger to the spotlight, because she should be able to step in and just keep rocking and rolling when she gets here.
She's no stranger to pressure, and she's very good at keeping her eyes on the prize. She's very good at kind of keeping that tunnel vision oriented towards, winning, towards her goals, putting herself in a position to be on that winning team. So I think, the fact that she's joining this winning culture, it's just going to be so exciting to see how her game really develops, because I know we were kind of talking about she's an insane two-way player. She's really built kind of like a 3 forward, but she could play big like a 4. Even in this championship game, they won 80-69 over Canada. And I think she had 5 steals in that game. So when you have, somebody that can kind of play like a 3 through 5, really, I mean, that's exactly what this team is going to need.
Yeah, I was reading Chris Wellbaum of Gamecock Central, went through the other day and, was kind of talking about where he thought the newcomers are going to be able to slide in. And he projects that Edwards probably starts out in that 4 role. And again, every chance in the world for her to move up as time goes on. But again, you have so much good talent, and again, like Malaysia Fulwiley going into her sophomore year, that'll give me more of the featured ones, in that starting lineup. But there's no reason why Joyce Edwards can't immediately insert herself and start making an impact right away. And we talked so much at the end of the women's basketball season as, the Caitlin Clarks, the Angel Reeses, Cardosos, girls like that were moving on to the WNBA. Like, who are those next superstars that are going to become the crossover stars of women's basketball going forward? And Joyce Edwards, with the hype that she has coming out of high school, with the accolades that she's already gotten, and with her being inserted into, again, the dynasty of women's basketball right now, I think she's got a good shot at being one of those names that really gets talked about from a national perspective in the years to come.
And one thing I definitely want to emphasize is, I think just because she's playing like this in high school doesn't mean she's going to, instantly start for USC and, be dropping 31 and 13 and have 3 steals a game. I could definitely see her averaging maybe like 15 and 8 or, like 10 and 8, kind of like as that, she kind of starts out. But
sure,
I think as she kind of develops, she's going to surprise a lot of people. But how her and Fulwiley kind of develop rapport, as they kind of play over the years is going to be very exciting to watch.
There's always an acclimation period for any athlete going to the college level. But I think about in the game of women's basketball in college, the talent disparity between the top and the bottom is very vast. So South Carolina, yes, they do schedule tough opponents within their a non-conference slate, but there are plenty of those quote-unquote cupcake teams that Carolina routinely beats by 60 and 70 points. That's going to be an opportunity to get out there, get that experience, get those minutes on the court. So when conference play rolls around, when you're taking on the LSUs, the Tennessees, and stuff like that, if she is at that point of being in the starting lineup, she'll already have tons of minutes under her belt, tons of playing experience to where that won't be a factor. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think she's going to have any problem jumping in feet first and being a contributor. Again, maybe not, getting double-doubles right out of the gate or something along those lines, but in due time, I do think that's going to be coming sooner rather than later.
I agree.
So looking forward to that. Again, Joyce Edwards winning yet another award yesterday with the MVP of the FIBA U18 AmeriCup team in coming off of a great performance in their tournament. We'll keep with basketball as the Lakers have officially introduced their new head coach. We'll hear what he had to say as he takes over the job straight from the podcast microphone. Coming up, it is The Extra Point. He is Sam Shapiro from WIS. I'm Tyler Head on your Tuesday on the Game.
question, and I take this facility very seriously. I have never coached in the NBA before. I don't know if you guys have heard that.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Sam Shapiro from WIS with you on this Tuesday. Quick reminder, craft beer cards back. You can spend $30 a brewery at 12 craft beer locations. $306 value, all yours for $79. Go online to 1075thegame.com. Click on the Sweet Deals tab and purchase yourself a craft beer card. That sound you just heard, that was J.J. Redick on his official introduction as Lakers head coach yesterday when speaking to the media. And no, I have not heard that J.J. Redick had never coached the NBA before. This is the first time it is being brought to my attention. No, we are all very aware J.J. Redick has never coached the NBA before. He was doing a podcast with LeBron James. He was on the NBA Finals coverage, and now he's getting set to coach the most popular team in all of the NBA, one of the most popular sports brands in all of America. How's this going to go?
You know, I think that's still kind of up in the air, but I feel like people have kind of been talking about this for a long time. Kind of ironically, you were saying before, I know a lot of the time people have heard, I've heard his analysis, and I was kind of like, you know, he knows a lot. He could be a decent coach. I'm curious to see how this is going to go because it's LeBron and Anthony Davis. Because I feel like coaches, it goes two ways. You've got a Tyronn Lue type of way where you come out of it with a ring, or you got David Blatt.
That's the thing to me. And I go back to like a couple years ago. Remember when Tony Romo was like calling plays before they actually happened on CBS, and like his first or second year in the booth, people are like, oh my God, this guy's a football genius. Make him a head coach. There's a difference between giving good analysis and actually having to go out there and coach a game. Like,
right.
And look, everybody that's ever played in the NBA is going to understand the X's and O's more than the average person, which is why you have those type of guys on your broadcast to bring you inside what's happening on the court, inside the players' heads, all that kind of stuff. But that's a big jump to go from doing that, just talking about it on television, you know, play with Telestrator, that kind of stuff, to actually legitimately coaching an entire season, trying to get a team to the playoffs, dealing with the personalities of the team, which the Lakers have a few of those, obviously. Like, again, I'm not saying he's going to crash and burn, but I don't go into this with the utmost confidence like, yes, this is the guy to lead the Lakers back to their great heights from so many years ago.
I don't see him leading them necessarily to a ring next season or contesting, you know, Boston being the most winningest franchise right now. But, I mean, he definitely could. He could definitely put some schemes, I feel like, in that team's mind to kind of at least space the floor a little bit better. I mean, they do have some shooters, I feel like, that they could utilize, and I feel like if anybody's going to get perspective on outside scoring in today's day and age, he's a good candidate for that. But like you said, I know, like you were saying, you know, alluding to kind of no coaching experience prior. I mean, I don't know. This is a move I feel like a lot of people have been waiting for, but could be very hit or miss. I mean, Steve Nash is another great example. He came in, was an exceptional player, but...
And I have a list here of coaches that went into their coaching jobs in the NBA as head coaches with no prior coaching experience. It's a mixed bag. Like you mentioned, you have Steve Kerr, you have Nash, you have Jason Kidd, guys like that have been successful in their time as head coaches despite the fact that they did not have prior coaching experience. Larry Bird back in the day with the Pacers, you know, even though that was pretty short-lived. But for every coach that was successful, there are plenty of other coaches that weren't. Magic Johnson, in one season with the Lakers, not very successful. Let's see here. Quinn Buckner with the Mavericks back in the day, not very successful. Let's see. Dan Issel back in the day with Denver, not all that successful. Made it to the playoffs one time, but just like it's so hit or miss. So it's not like you have this track record of, well, hey, out of these 10 coaches that have never coached before, 9 of them, you know, made the playoffs and, you know, won playoff series and all that kind of stuff. It's not those numbers necessarily, you know, in your favor. Now, again, I think the good relationship with LeBron certainly helps because, let's face it, this is LeBron's team at the end of the day, and if he doesn't gel well with the coach, things are going to go south pretty quickly. I just don't know if hiring his buddy is necessarily the best choice.
Honestly, I'm more surprised they hired Redick than Monty Williams, because Monty Williams is a very respectable coach. Coached Chris Paul at one of the biggest heights in his career, not excluding the Phoenix team that played Milwaukee, but when that Hornets team faced off against Kobe every year. I mean, he was coaching Chris Paul, David West, I think a young Tyson Chandler even. So, Monty Williams, if you're looking for a resume, coaching experience, somebody that has basketball knowledge, that's somebody, the Pistons doesn't really, his resume with the Pistons in my mind doesn't really count. The only player he was truly coaching that had, consistent superstar talent on that team was really Cade Cunningham. So I think he would have meshed really well with this coaching this Lakers team and LeBron and Anthony Davis. If you're looking for a coach comparing him to Redick, but Redick also kind of has that playing experience over him, which I guess in this case factored more in hiring him over, Monty Williams.
Yeah, and the funny thing about all this is they wanted Dan Hurley. They wanted Dan Hurley really bad. They flew him out there, offered him a ton of money to leave UConn. He didn't want to do it. So if I'm JJ Redick, I know I'm at best the second option here, and I know there was rumors before, the Hurley thing that JJ Redick was, in the running, in the discussion for being their head coach, but they definitely settled on JJ Redick because they couldn't get Dan Hurley.
I just don't know why. I feel like it almost seems like it's not an organic idea, if that makes sense, because so many people were talking about it for so long. When you just have the general consensus going, do this, do this, do this, then when the organization goes out and does it, it almost doesn't seem like an organic move. I mean, I know Redick was being considered as a coaching hire option, not just for the Lakers, but like you said, we've been talking about this for so long, so it almost wasn't a surprise, even though Redick has no coaching resume.
Well, it's going to dominate the headlines, and everybody's going to have their eyes on what happens next year when it comes to the Lakers, and we'll see if in a couple days they end up drafting Bronny James with their second-round pick or whatever. That may not be the best way to get your tenure as the Lakers head coach off to a start.
What I'm curious to know is, if the Lakers do flop, either way, whether they flop or succeed, how much of that is going to fall on Redick, do you think?
Probably a lot. I really put it on the ownership organization more than anything else for hiring him, because you don't know what you're getting in a guy that's never coached this level before. So while, yes, he is the coach, I do think hiring him in the first place puts a lot of blame on the ownership if it doesn't end up working out. So we'll see.
Yeah, they're definitely going to look like a bunch of clowns if it doesn't work out.
And that'll do it for today's edition of The Extra Point. Coming up next, it is the Garnet Trust Hour. Bengali Kamara, transfer linebacker from Pitt, hanging out with Chris Clark. We'll get to that coming up at the top 10 o'clock hour. He's been Sam Shearer from WIS. I'm Tyler Head here on The Game. And welcome in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour here on the game. We'll get you to the conversation with Bengali Kamara here in just a moment here on the game. Tyler Head along with you. Again, Chris Clark sitting down with Bengali Kamara, learning a little bit more about the new transfer linebacker from Pitt, helping fill out what is already a very, very good linebacker room for South Carolina this upcoming season. And like all these other position groups, we still have to figure out how exactly the reps are going to be split up. But I think you look at this position group, as well as many others, especially on defense, with a lot of confidence based on what these guys had done at their respective stops before, or what we know about these guys up to this point in their time in their careers at South Carolina. And when you look at it, you have Debo Williams coming back for another year, and he's obviously somebody that's been here, there, and everywhere and played so many snaps a season ago, pretty much all of them, it seemed like, never really left the field, and is going to be looked at as the leader of this linebacking core specifically this season. And then you have Bam Martin Scott come back for another year. He's somebody that obviously came on strong towards the end of last season as South Carolina went into more of the 3-3-5 kind of defense. And then you welcome in the two transfers with Bengali Kamara from Pitt and then Demetrius Knight coming over from Charlotte, essentially taking the places of the guys that you lost in the linebacker room with guys like Stone Blanton and Pup Howard. And again, I don't mean this as a way to dog Blanton or Howard or anything like that, but I think you look at the additions of Knight and Kamara as what I would like to say are upgrades to what you had in those positions before. Stone Blanton was an okay linebacker. I definitely think that he had issues and things that he needed to improve on, especially when it came to his coverage and stuff like that. That I think you maybe see a significant step forward with these two guys that come in as transfers. And Pup Howard, was somebody that obviously came in a season ago with a lot of hype and a lot of anticipation of what he was going to be, not only early on at South Carolina, but as the future of that linebacker position. Didn't really pop in year number one like a lot of people thought he was going to, and ended up obviously transferring out to Florida now. But again, when you bring in two guys with experience like Knight and Kamara, you feel like that gives you a better opportunity than what you theoretically would have had with a Pup Howard in year number two. So and again, like with everything, we're going to have to wait and see when the season finally gets here what these two guys are going to end up being for this team. But a lot of reason to be confident in this linebacking core, going into this upcoming season. So we'll see what he is able to do, as well as Kamara, in addition to some of the newer faces that you have on this team as well, with Wendell Gregory, J.R. Johnson, two guys that are pretty hyped up as well, coming in as true freshmen. All right, so now we have it. Well, let's get to the conversation with Chris Clark and Bengali Kamara on today's edition of the Garnet Trust Hour.
All right, welcome in. It's the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. I'm Chris Clark here in the Herndon Chevy Studios. Another special edition of the Garnet Trust Hour because we have another South Carolina student athlete in with us. I got Gamecock football's Bengali Kamara in here with me in studio. Hey, man, appreciate you coming in today. I know you've been busy, so thanks for taking time out of the schedule to join us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I know that you have been, like all your teammates, you've been locked in on summer workouts. Mm-hmm. And, man, on the way in here, we were talking about the weather.
Yeah.
What you are from Akron, Ohio.
Yes.
So what have you thought of the Columbia heat so far?
It's real hot.
That's a good summary.
It's real hot.
It is very hot. Is this the hottest that heat wave that you felt?
That I can remember, probably. Especially this early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it get So we were kind of comparing some temperatures. What's the hottest it gets in Akron, like in the summer?
I ain't gonna lie, I haven't spent a lot of time in the summer in Akron. Most of the time was really when I was at my previous school.
Yeah.
Like around in Pittsburgh, it's probably like in the 90s, 80s, high 80s. But here, I don't know why it kind of feels different.
Well, it's the humidity.
Yeah, I think it's the humidity.
Yeah, it's like an oven.
Real hot.
What about lowest points when you were at Pittsburgh? You spent several years there.
Oh yeah, it get real cold. It get cold probably a little bit more earlier than Columbia because like it probably get cold like I don't know, probably like third game of the year.
Yeah,
start kind of
dipping.
Yeah, start kind of dipping, and you gotta start preparing for the second half of the season.
But you talking about? I mean, you see some negative temps up there, right?
Oh yeah,
I played
some games where it's been like super cold.
Yeah,
yeah, like super cold.
You think it's harder to do hot or cold?
I think it's hard to play cold. I think anybody can tell you, like, in the coldest, it takes away at least, like, 10% of your overall.
Oh, because of, like, the breathing, yeah.
The breathing, your fingers always, like, you can't even feel your fingers. And then, like, me, I'm not a finger person. I'm more like a toe person. Like, my feet start to get real numb. So, like,
yeah,
when you have that situation, the rest is a disaster.
And then the hits probably hurt worse because you're all cold,
sure.
taking hits.
You don't want nobody stepping on you.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's talk about let's go back to your high school recruiting, right? Because as we said, you are from Akron.
Mm-hmm.
You play all your high school ball in Akron.
Yeah.
And then you signed with Pitt. So how was your high school recruiting process?
My high school recruiting process, I feel like it was pretty normal to like.
Yeah.
Regular high school like recruits. Like I think I started off like my first offer probably like my sophomore year, and then junior year it started blowing up. I committed for my senior year, and I was off.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh. Like it was pretty normal for like regular, but like my city it probably wasn't like as normal. Like athletes coming out of my city, so that's probably it.
Were you who did you like growing up? Did you have a team? Like, was Ohio State a team for you?
Oh, yeah,
is that who you like?
I was like a Cleveland Brown fan.
Yep.
So like Cleveland was my team. And when it came to college, I really just like players more than I like teams.
Yeah.
So like the best players was really the people I used to watch. Like I just like to watch the players more than the team.
You big LeBron guy?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
You ever gotten to meet him or have any dealings with any of his?
I actually have never met LeBron. Hopefully I can meet him one day.
Yeah.
It'll definitely be cool.
So you are you team LeBron in the whole GOAT debate, like basketball?
I mean, that's the only right answer.
Oh, okay. I bet you and your teammates might get in some battles about that.
Nah, they not.
No?
They it's not enough. They don't got enough of an argument to argue with me. So.
I got you. I figure with you being an Akron guy, you're probably team LeBron. So
yeah.
So let's look back a little bit more at your time at Pitt, and obviously we're going to bring things forward to, getting in the transfer portal and ultimately coming over here to South Carolina. But let's look back at your Pitt career. I mean, you played early, right? Like first year you started playing. You played a couple different, I think, linebacker spots during your career there. But tell us about your first year of college football and just kind of how it was acclimating from high school to going and playing in the ACC and getting on the field pretty early.
I was very lucky to be around really good players at Pitt my first freshman year. So like, it was really easy to like kind of transition into college because of the players that were already on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my first year was the COVID year, and everybody know how that went. So
yeah,
it kind of brought me some time. And yeah, that's really how my first year went for real. Kind of just played there and there, played a lot of special teams. Yeah, and I was lucky to be around a lot of good players, so that kind of helped a little bit.
How was it, coming into college? So your first year was 2020.
Yeah.
The COVID year, like you said. So your season's shortened and everything, and I remember that. It was kind of a weird time.
Right.
But I feel like, man, you're not only like trying to play football, but like now you're moving up a level. You're going to college, which is a new like life experience. Was it kind of difficult to do that?
Not really. I think COVID was definitely a good time. To me, it was. I think it brought a lot of us some time.
Yeah.
Because of like the situation.
Yeah.
And I feel like I kind of like it helped me with my situation in the future, like being able to, take that year and learn a little bit.
Extra year.
Yeah.
So you played a lot of special teams year one. I know looking back at what you did at Pitt throughout your career, you played, like I said, a couple linebacker spots. I think they called them star and money, right? The linebacker spots. Tell us is that like a Sam and a Mike spot, or what were the spots in the defense?
Star was like a nickel apex linebacker position.
Okay.
And money was like a wheel linebacker position.
Okay.
So I had like played star a little bit my junior year, my first year starting, and I had played money last year, but I also played star. But my second year, I was mainly a money.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I played but mainly them two positions.
And now that you're at South Carolina, and again, we're going to go back and kind of cover the actual transition that took place for you to get in the portal, come here, but compare those spots to what you've been doing now at South Carolina. Like, what is there any carryover between what you did there and what you may do here at South Carolina in the defense?
It's a little different due to like the defense being different.
Yeah.
South Carolina runs like a 4-2. We ran like a 4-3 at Pitt. So, but I mean, I play linebacker. I love linebacker. I think I got a feel for linebacker. So it really don't matter what position I play as long as like I'm playing linebacker.
Yeah. Now, I know you got to play at Pitt behind a guy, alongside a guy in DeAndre Jules, who's now here at South Carolina. And, I know Jules is a really good player. Tell us a little bit about his game and maybe what Gamecock fans can expect from him.
Jules is a really good player. Jules has a lot of potential that's untapped. And I think Jules, when Jules get everything together and get everything going, Jules could be dominant. Jules has that type of ability and potential to be dominant.
What's your what are kind of your biggest takeaways from your time at Pitt? You mentioned the COVID year, being able to have that as an extra year, which is allowing you to play now in 2024. Since you saw the field immediately, you're able to get that extra year.
Yeah.
But what kind of what were some of maybe the lessons that you've taken away from the game, and how have you seen yourself grow from this time that you did spend at Pitt?
I really appreciated like being around again like really good players. I think we had like a lot of players that set a good standard for just not like for Pitt, but like for just being a player in itself. So like that's really what I got to say is like, we had really good guys, really good role models and older guys there. They've like inspired me like through my path there and through now.
So you spend what 4 seasons at Pitt?
Yeah.
Get to play every single year, and then it's time. You decide to enter the transfer portal. What went into that choice to you got one more year? Why did you decide to go ahead and try your hand at the portal?
It's definitely a lot of different reasons, but I think mainly what it came down to was just trying something different, trying to take a risk. It'd be great because I feel like I was a little complacent. Things weren't like happening the way I wanted it to, and I just felt like maybe it's time for me to take a risk and
branch out a little bit. Yeah. When we come back on the other side, we're going to expand on Bengali Kamara's decision to enter the transfer portal and how he ultimately landed at South Carolina, and then we're going to look forward a little bit too. To the future in the 2024 season. So we'll be right back. You're listening to the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. All right, welcome back in. Chris Clark here in the Herndon Chevy Studios. It's the Garnet Trust Hour. Going for the next little while, I'm here with Bengali Kamara from Gamecock Football in studio. Garnet Trust Hour is presented, of course, as always, by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Appreciate those guys. Appreciate you, Bengali, for being in here. And let's cover this real quick before we get back to the portal. My understanding, a lot of teammates call you Gali. I mean, that seems like a pretty easy nickname, just kind of plays off your name. Is there anything else behind that, or is it just shorten your name a little bit?
I got a couple nicknames, but Gali is just the most easiest.
That's the easy one.
That's
all right.
what I tell people when I just don't want to say my full name.
Yeah. I'm Gali. Yeah. No, it's good. It's easy to remember, like you said. So we were talking in the last segment about you entering the portal, and you just wanted to try some things different. Maybe was pro stock part of that? Hey, I want to continue developing, try to go, raise my stock a little bit, or since you have 1 year left.
I really don't try to think that far.
Yeah.
I try to just be where my feet are at.
Yeah.
My feet right now is just competing for playing time.
Yeah.
We have a really deep linebacker room, really a lot of talented players, and just trying to stand out and give the coaches a reason.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to go into that linebacker room, by the way, here in a bit. But you have played, the star position, the money position, 2 linebacker spots at Pitt. Now coming to South Carolina, you outlined earlier how those spots are a little bit different. But are you doing some of a few different spots here at South Carolina? A couple different spots?
Yeah,
Mike, Will?
Spots.
Yeah.
Just listen to what the coach want me to do. I'm just trying to be the best asset on Saturdays.
Yeah. What do you feel like that you bring to whatever linebacker spot you're playing? If you could kind of give a scouting report on yourself, what do you feel like you do well? And then what are some areas that you want to just continue to grow in before the season rolls around?
I think I bring an energy to a defense, contagious energy.
Yep.
To compete. Want to be the best. Yeah.
Coverage wise.
Yeah. Just explosive. I think I'm a very explosive athlete, very impactful athlete on third down. I think that's what I can bring. I think there's a lot more stuff that I haven't showed that I know I can definitely do. God willing, it's gonna happen.
You've also mentioned earlier at Pitt the way that one of the ways that you got on the field in year one in 2020 was by playing special teams.
Yeah.
We know that special teams is a pretty big area of emphasis for Shane Beamer. Yeah. Always has been. Joe DeCamillis comes in as the new special teams coach, and this is your first year here too. What have been your impressions of just how Coach Beamer runs the special teams, how Coach Joe D runs it, and how you could possibly fit into that this year?
It's going to be very important. Special teams is a very important phase of the game. So, wherever I could be at to help is what I'm going to do, I try to do everything in my 100%. So, I do it anywhere they want me to.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a good approach to take. Knows something South Carolina looks at as well in players that they recruit. And going back to the portal, when you jumped in, what was there anything surprising about the portal process? When you went in, kind of took that leap of faith, were you surprised by how much interest there was? Did you think there'd be more? How did the whole thing go, and how did you ultimately land on South Carolina?
Coming out the portal, I kind of already knew it was going to be a lot of schools.
Yeah.
Due to I feel like I put a good amount of tape.
For sure.
Recruited by a lot of schools, so I kind of already knew it was going to be a lot of schools. I just wanted it to be somewhere where it was going to challenge me. So I didn't really get recruited by South Carolina until later, and that was probably because they had other linebackers that left a little later in the process.
Yeah.
So, but I already knew once the SEC called that's what I was going to want to do. So eventually when that happened and South Carolina called, I kind of already set my mind to it.
Yeah. Did Jules or you commit first to South Carolina? I can't remember how that went.
Jules committed first. Jules told me to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you trust kind of his judgment on that? All right,
it really didn't have to do with Jules as much, but just Jules coming made it a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. So what was it about, you mentioned the SEC playing a pretty big role in that, but when you did get to take a visit, right, before you, so what did you see on the visit? What did you hear from the coaches that kind of helped make you comfortable with the choice?
Just honesty.
Yeah.
And knowing that we both helping each other. Like it's a transaction between both of us. Like we're helping each other. I'm helping the team get better, and they're helping me with my pro career, trying to get there. So it's a level of respect there, you know. And when we had that conversation, I trusted it, and that's what I went with.
So I know we were talking earlier in the first segment about workouts and how hot it is, but let's get past the weather and dive into like how the workouts are actually going. You kind of said something to me earlier on the way in here that made it think like these workouts are pretty tough. Like how's that going? How's it challenging you?
Workouts are definitely tough. It's just real tough. It's just a lot, but I mean I trust in the workouts. I trust in the process. So, I'm going into week one hoping that everything we working for, everything we doing, all the sweat we putting in is going to be able to, help me dominate. What
are you right now from a height weight standpoint?
Like 6'2.5", 230.
230. Okay. We had I want to give you a chance to talk about some of your teammates too, because you mentioned the depth in the linebacker room. So I had Bam Scott in here recently too. He's like 6'3", 240 now. Looks good. And what are your thoughts on just the depth that Coach White, Coach Beamer, that they've put together in that room? Because like you said, it does look like a pretty deep group.
I'm happy, because it allows everybody to come in fresh and just allows a dominant style of football to be played. When you got fresh guys that's all fast and aggressive, like only good things can happen.
Yeah.
And trusting Coach White to be able to, help everybody get that feel out there. I'm like, man, I'm just saying, like, it's going to be very, very, it's going to look really good on Saturdays. I trust that it's going to look really good on Saturdays.
I feel like that linebacker is one of those spots where if you've got some depth, it seems like that can help you on special teams, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there have been years in the past where, like Debo Williams, for instance, like he's played basically the whole game, and, he won't have to do that, I think. How important is that, just like keeping guys fresh to where maybe some guys play 40 snaps instead of 70 throughout the course of a game?
I think it helps everybody. I've played games where I've played 70, 80 snaps.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I feel like those were probably my worst games.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I've played games where I played 30 snaps, 40 snaps, half and half with somebody, and I feel like those were my best games. So, I mean, being fresh is more important than anything. Playing out there at your 100% is more important than anything because you don't want to leave bad tape out there.
Right.
So, that's just really what it is for real. We got a lot of good players. We have I don't feel like there's any drop-off from, in the linebacker room, honestly. Even the young guys like Fred and Wendell.
Yeah.
And Jaron, everybody. It's even the walk-ons. Like, I could talk about the walk-ons, and it's like I feel like it's just a good group.
Yeah. So real quick, a couple in the last minute and a half, 2 minutes here. You mentioned Fred, J.R. Johnson. Does he look like a freshman to you?
Nah. He's a big freshman, man. He got a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential, with them young guys. You got to let them know, like, bro, like, you got a lot of potential, but you got to work.
Yeah.
But he knows that. So he's coming along real good.
The other linebacker that came in with you as a transfer is Demetrius Knight.
Yeah.
He played at Georgia Tech, played at Charlotte, put some good tape on. And, the thing we've heard about D Knight, he's a big, fast kid. What have been your impressions of him?
D Knight is, he's really big and fast. Surprised me a little bit in the spring. I didn't know he was that fast when he was doing workouts, but he's a really fast, powerful guy. Vocally, he's a really good leader. He's good with people. So, like, I have a lot of trust with D Knight when I'm out there too. He knows everything. He even helps me out sometimes. So, like, D Knight was a great get for us. Like, he was a really great get for us. So I'm happy to play with him. That's really just what it is. Like I said, it's like tell you, it feels like that with everybody. So
yeah,
really nice.
So last few seconds here with you, Guy. Heading into, you're going to finish summer workouts here, getting into July now. And then you got preseason camp. So what are you really focused on and honed in on before the season gets going on August 31st?
Just health.
Yeah.
Just be as healthy as possible.
Yep.
So August 31st. that's just gonna be the main thing for the season. Honestly, is just we have a hard schedule. We have a lot of depth, but also depth can be hindered by injuries. So just trying to stay as healthy as possible and working on the playbook, really.
Good stuff. All right, that's Bengali Kamara, linebacker from Gamecock football. Appreciate you coming in, man. Thanks a lot for joining me here on the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back soon.
Thank you.
Yeah. Our friends over at Integrated Media in the Midlands can help take your home to the next level and, quite frankly, just make your home smarter. They can handle anything that you may need from an audio-visual standpoint. And, in fact, I'm actually looking at their Instagram profile right now. They're on Instagram, Integrated Media Columbia with underscores in between each of the words. Or you can check them out on Facebook. They do a really good job of showing some of the latest projects that they've completed. They've got a TV on a ceramic tile fireplace here. They've got Sonos wireless speakers. They've got security and cameras. They've got a picture of a bunch of wires absolutely everywhere, and they're able to clean up that mess for one of their clients. They can do commercial. They can do residential. Whether it's something as simple as mounting a TV to a complete smart home system, they can do it for you. IntegratedMediaInc.com. Or give Michael and Nathan and the team at Integrated Media a call, 803-948-8327.